and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Tonight, I'll be giving my Week 11 college football predictions for the 2025 season. So starting with BYU at Texas Tech, probably the biggest game of this week. So I still think that Texas Tech is going to win the Big 12. This is the only team that has the roster to actually be able to make a run in the college football playoff. But BYU is a very well coached team, and I actually think BYU head coach Kalani Sitake has done an even more impressive job coaching this team than last year's team because this year he lost his starting quarterback less than 2 months before the season began, and it's not like he lost a bad or even average quarterback. Retzloff was a very good quarterback for them last season and was a big part of their success. But his replacement, Bear Bachmeyer, has been pretty good. He's been better than I thought he would be. He's been a very solid passer. He's thrown for 1,693 yards and completed 62.7% of his passes and averages a good 8.4 yards per throw and has a good touchdown interception ratio of 11-3. And like Retzloff was, Bachmeyer is a dual threat quarterback. He's already got 408 yards rushing and 9 rushing touchdowns, averaging 4.3 yards per run. His legs are a big part of the BYU offense, even more than Retzloff's legs were last season. But Texas Tech quarterback Byron Morton has been dealing with a knee injury for most of the season. It's caused him to miss a whole game and part of 2 other games. But after playing last week against Kansas State, it appears that he's finally healthy. And they need him even more than they did before now because their backup quarterback is now out for the season with a torn ACL. But Morton is a better thrower than BYU's Bachmeyer is. Morton, even though he's missed some time, has already thrown for 1,750 yards, and he's very accurate. He's completed 67.9% of his throws and averages a really good 9.5 yards per throw. And his touchdown interception ratio is 15-4. Now, Morton, though, does not have near the running ability of Bachmeyer. Morton is just a pocket passer. But BYU's best offensive player is their running back, LJ Martin. And he got hurt in their last game against Iowa State, and it caused him to miss the rest of that game. But good news for BYU is he's expected to play in this game because without him, I really don't think BYU would have much of a chance in this one because their offense is very dependent on him. He's even better this year than he was last year. And he was really good last year too. But this year he's already got 789 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards a carry, and he's got 5 games of over 100 yards rushing. But while Texas Tech doesn't have a running back that's as good as LJ Martin, they've got a couple of good running backs, while BYU only has the one good running back. Texas Tech's Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams have been one of the better running back combinations this season. They've combined for 1,271 yards and 15 touchdowns. And Dickey is averaging at 5.6 yards per carry, while Williams is averaging 5.7 yards per carry. And at wide receiver, BYU does have one of the best ones, Chase Roberts. He's got 32 catches for 591 and 4 touchdowns, averaging a really good 18.5 a catch. But they don't have a whole group of good wide receivers like Texas Tech does. Texas Tech starting three wide receivers. Caleb Douglas, Lissa, Coy Aiken, and Reggie Virgil. You can't find a much better starting group of wide receivers than those three. They've combined this season for 113 catches for 1,489 yards and 13 touchdowns.
Getting to the runner.
Not an easy chore either. Looking long again. Caleb Douglas.
And at the line of scrimmage, they're both in great shape. BYU, I think, has a little better offensive line than Texas Tech that does. BYU's offensive line has been one of the best in the country this year in both pass protection and run blocking. They've only given up 9 sacks, which is barely more than one a game. And they're averaging 216.6 rushing yards per game, which ranks 15th in the country, and are averaging 5.4 yards per run. But Texas Tech has got a better defensive line. This Texas Tech defensive line can match up with anybody. And as good as this Texas Tech roster is, I think the defensive line is the best part of it. They're only giving up on average 74.6 rushing yards per game, and they've got a really strong pass rush. The transfer defensive lineman that they brought in from Stanford, David Bailey, I think he's the best pass rusher in college football. He's already got 11 and a half sacks. And the linebackers in this game are great. I think the two best linebacker combinations in the country are on these two teams. For BYU, it's Isaiah Glasgow and Jack Kelly. And for Texas Tech, it's Jacob Rodriguez and Ben Roberts. So Jack Kelly is BYU's best pass rusher. He's already got 5 sacks this year. And Jacob Rodriguez is the best linebacker in college football. He's already got 74 tackles and broke up 5 passes and intercepted 2 passes and forced 7 fumbles. And both teams are good in the secondary. BYU is a little bit better though than Texas Tech. BYU is averaging giving up 188.9 yards passing per game, while Texas Tech is giving up on average 196.8 yards passing per game. But with BYU being more of a running team, I think that's good for Texas Tech because the best part of their defense is stopping the run. And while I don't think they can shut down this BYU run game, I do think that they can slow it down. And Texas Tech's offense, I think, is a little more balanced than BYU's is, and their defense is overall better than BYU's. I think this game will be close for most of it, but I actually think Texas Tech pulls away late and wins it by 2 touchdowns. I've got Texas Tech getting the win over BYU by a score of 35 to 21. So now Texas A&M at Missouri. So with Missouri's quarterback Bo Prabila being out for the season, the only chance they're going to have in this game is their defense. Missouri's defense, I think, is even better than Texas A&M's is, and this will be, except for Auburn, the best defense that Texas A&M has win against this season. But for Missouri to have a chance to win this one, I think they're going to have to hold A&M down into the low 20s, which seems unlikely because it appears to me that Texas A&M has the best offense in the SEC. It's very balanced, and even if Prbila had been able to play, Texas A&M was going to have the quarterback advantage in this one. But now with him out, they're going to have a huge quarterback advantage. The Missouri quarterback in this game will be Matt Zollers, who took over for Prbila in the Vanderbilt game. And he is a four-star quarterback, so he does have a high ceiling. But the problem is, before being thrown into the game against Vanderbilt, he had almost no college experience. He's a true freshman, and understandably, he didn't play great against Vanderbilt. He did throw for 138 yards and a touchdown, but only completed 60.9% of his passes and only averaged 6 yards per throw. And Zollers is not a dual threat quarterback like Prbila is. Now, while Bo Prbila doesn't have near the running abilities of Texas A&M's Marcel Reed, he is a decent runner. But I think this is a bad matchup for Missouri because they were a running team all year, but now with their quarterback out, they're going to be even more of a running team. And while I do think Missouri's star running back, Ahmad Hardy, will have some success running in this game because he did go against a really good run defense against Vanderbilt and still ran for 97 yards on 20 carries. I do think he's going to get slowed down some in this game because Texas A&M has got a really good defensive line. They're giving up only 118.5 yards rushing per game on average, and they've got an elite pass rush. Keziah Howell is one of the best pass rushers in college football. He's already got 9.5 sacks this season. He had two against LSU, and I think he's going to be a problem for Missouri in this game.
Ruft die Spielzüge für Gary auf. Gary ist beim zweiten Versuch wieder im Spiel.
And while Texas A&M's secondary has been very solid this year, they're giving up on average 203 yards passing per game. It's not so good to where you wouldn't be able to throw on them if you had a good quarterback, but Missouri is in bad shape right now at quarterback, so I don't see Missouri being able to score much in this game. I think they're going to have a lot of three and outs. And I do think Missouri's defense will play well in the first half and keep them in the game. But I think they're going to get tired from being on the field so much that in the second half, Texas A&M will pull away and get the win. I've got Texas A&M getting the win over Missouri by a score of 24-17. So now LSU at Alabama. So Alabama is a 10-point favorite in this game, but I would actually be surprised if they win by 10 points. I think this one's going to go one of two ways. I could see because the LSU season has been a bust and they fired their coach that they just quit on the season. And in that case, Alabama will run away with it. Or I could see them doing what Florida did and come together as a team for the interim head coach and play hard. Because while I know Florida didn't beat Georgia, it was obvious watching the game that they did want that one really bad. But LSU is still going to be without Whit Weeks. And while LSU's defense has been a big disappointment this season, they still do have plenty of talent to have a chance to slow down the Alabama offense. That when you look at points per game, has actually not been great. Now, their passing has been great with Ty Simpson. They're averaging 291.6 yards passing per game, which ranks 15th in the country. And their wide receivers, Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, have combined for 71 catches for 1,021 yards and 9 touchdowns. And Ryan Williams hasn't even played in 2 games this season. But Alabama has almost no run game. They're only averaging 118.9 yards rushing per game, which ranks 114th in the country. Uh, Alabama's offensive line has been solid in pass protection, but they've been terrible in run blocking. This is the worst run blocking I've ever seen from an Alabama offensive line. Under Nick Saban, they were always great at that. Even in his later years with Alabama, when they had those great quarterbacks like Tua and Bryce Young, and they were not running for as many yards as before, it wasn't because they couldn't run the football. It's just because they were throwing it more than before. But if you watch this Alabama team try to run the football, they can't. But Ty Simpson has been a much better quarterback this season than Garrett Nussmeier has. And the way Nussmeier has played this season, it's hard for me to imagine him having much success against an elite Alabama secondary that's only giving up 163 yards passing per game on average. And bad news for what's been a struggling LSU offensive line is that Alabama's had a lot more of a pass rush in these last 2 games than they had before that this season. But if this interim head coach for LSU is smart, he'll start a 5-star freshman Harlem Berry at running back, because he's been the only decent running back for LSU all season. He's only got 46 carries, but he's got 225 and 2 touchdowns, averaging 4.9 a carry. And the Alabama run defense has not been as good as it was under Nick Saban, or even as it was last year. They're giving up 150 yards rushing per game nearly. I actually think that LSU's defense will play well in this game, and that will make it closer than it's supposed to be. And I think it'll probably either go down to the end or close to it. But Alabama is still going to be too good, in my opinion. Alabama, I think, gets the win. I've got Alabama 21, LSU 14. So that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.